Okay. First things first, let's get to our next subject, our next item of debate, our next discussion. This week, the thing about, and we talked about it on this show, right? I think it was one of the major stories this week out of the Tokyo Olympics when Simone Biles pulled out of the Olympic Games, both the team and the individual events. In recent memory, you've got professional athletes like Naomi Osaka also pulling out of certain things due to mental health concerns. But we got to, and the more I think about this, and I brought this up yesterday, some of you were not happy with me that I tried to make comparisons with me or with rock stars or anyone else. A gymnast is completely different. How dare you make comparisons? And you know what? As I've thought about it, I said, comparisons are valid. We can eat. That's actually how we get to a better place, by making comparisons. If we want to get to a better place, mental health, I certainly hope we can talk about other jobs and other people and how mental health issues surround them as well. So I took great interest when my pal Ashkan Karbafrushin, the CEO of WatchMojo, one of the internet's most important YouTube channels, sent me a note this week. And Ash wrote a note, and he included a link to one of his latest pieces that he has published about workaholics and depression and his experiences. And he said, I'd like to talk about this. I said, Ash, you are always welcome on this program. And Ashkan Karbafrushin is on the line. Hi, Ash.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. Listen, tell me, you wrote many words here, and it actually was when did you publish this? Last week, right?
Yeah, I published it on Friday evening.
Okay. So just before we found out about Simone Biles and her deciding to pull out of events at the Tokyo Olympics, and I think there's a common thread here. People in high pressure positions that face these things. And I read your piece, and you write about your 100-hour work weeks. Going back to the days when you graduated from college. Now you're still the CEO of this company that's now a mature company and has had very many phases. And one line that you say, I find myself frozen when trying to reply to the following types of emails. And that word that you used, frozen, we've all been there. It doesn't matter what the job is, where you're just like, whether it's, frozen with fear or whatever it is on doing tasks. So tell me about why you wrote this and your thoughts from your perspective as a CEO.
Sure. Lots of reasons. For one, I'm helping a lot of entrepreneurs, and I don't think many of them really understand just what it takes and how hard it is. You always hear about the successes. You don't really read as much about the setbacks. And one reason is if you're experiencing challenges, to discuss them may be a sign of weakness. I don't really have like a board in a traditional sense, outside investors, people who are going to be like, ooh, can Ash cut it? Can he handle it? And I like to express myself. And for me, some people, when they deal with trauma, they deal with, negative events, they get tattoos, for example. Other people eat. Some people compose music. So for me, I've always written. It's actually helped me throughout my career. It's a form of expression. So this was like a very natural thing to do. It was also coming on the heels of the Anthony Bourdain documentary Roadrunner, as well as Robin Williams being, his birthday would have been 7 years old had he not taken his life. And people are like, well, these people seem to have it all. They seem to be so happy. And I would never personally, it's not in my personality to take my own life. Not that I'm judging, but I just wanted to kind of express why, the more successful you are, or so it seems, the more challenging it becomes, because people don't actually empathize what goes on to get to that point. The line about frozen, it's because I personally get such a rush. I get so much satisfaction helping people, partly because I've mentioned this, there's probably 5 people in my life who really helped me career-wise. I really had a lot of people who would be envious, jealous, petty, who weren't necessarily very helpful. In fact, they were harmful. And that's partly why I became an entrepreneur. And so I really, really enjoy helping people. And what I've realized is like human beings, we're always kind of like, forces of good and evil within our minds. I love to do the right thing, but we're all tempted by, greed and envy and gluttony and sloth and all of those, wonderful, sins and virtues. So I got to a point where I realized people do take advantage of one another. It's lazy. People are lazy in the sense that doing the right thing requires intellectual honesty. It requires sitting down, having tough conversations, saying things in a diplomatic way that may not be well received. And so I don't necessarily think that people are born evil at all. I think Jeff Bezos says, people are inherently lazy. And the eBay founder, meanwhile, said, like, people are basically good. I think people start off good, but then how they react to bad things explains if they turn evil. So, I got just to a point where I said, every time I've tried to help others and every time I've tried to do partnership, let's say about 80% of the time, I end up being disappointed through people's dishonesty, through people's greed, through people's, if I joke, but it's true that if I had to take a shot of alcohol every time people told me they had integrity, I'd be drunk on the floor. But if I had to take a shot when I saw them conduct themselves with integrity, I'd be sober as a kite. So I wrote the article for many reasons because I found myself more and more not wanting to help others, which was going against everything I stand for. I found myself more and more insular. I've come on your show and I've told people, I tell people when I get off the phone, I go, hey, go through my LinkedIn profile. If there's anybody I could introduce you to, send me an email and I'll gladly pass it on. But then I see people that I introduce, one acting more callous than the other. And I'm like, what is wrong with these animals? Like, what is wrong with people? So,
Yeah.
and I know this may seem very harsh. People don't talk like this. People always kind of want to be very kumbaya. But the reality is that it takes a lot of effort to do the right thing. And I just got to a point where I kind of needed to tell the world, like, look, it's not you, it's me. I just can't expose myself and try to help everybody right and left because I end up kind of getting disappointed and then depressed, essentially. And it's not you, it's me. I have to change, basically.
We're with Ashkan Karberfrushian. He is the CEO of Watch Mojo, a very successful internet media company. And Ash, your story that you published, you write, the hidden mental cost of success. You also go into some detail here, and I was surprised at the amount of detail you gave about other people in the media industry, I would say, taking advantage of you, whether it's on business deals and that kind of thing, and your disappointment. And I guess, the question I have is, just how, when you reach those levels and the success and you're having success on certain things, just what's the effect on you when you want to work with someone and you feel that they don't treat you in the sort of fair way?
I mean, look, I personally don't have a sense of entitlement. I really don't. I never have. I definitely won't as I, accumulate, let's say, success. And success could be, for me, really what I want is people to respect and trust me. So if when they have a problem, they come to me and I can help them. It goes back to wanting to serve others and give back. But yeah, and I name names, and I'm obviously careful in how I tell the story and not to kind of cross certain lines. But, ultimately, the reason why I emphasize these stories is because when you are going through your day-to-day, you have to be a professional and you have to be positive. And you're there as a CEO to support your team, your clients, your suppliers, the community. And so I wanted to actually just use those. And again, it's weird to name names and be so specific. And you could go on contextisking.com and look for the picture of Van Gogh and click and read the article if you'd like. It's because I just wanted to tell people that usually what ails somebody is not even what you may be aware of, for one. And it's like a tip of the iceberg, where what you see is one thing, but what is going on in their mind, heart, soul, and all that is generally something else. And indeed, when you start to, have a few wins, people don't understand that, it's not really about you. There may be other stuff. And I'm like that with my team. Many, many times I've seen employees sometimes react and say things that I don't really appreciate because I'm like, hey, there's a lack of respect to your colleague, or, hey, the way you said something to me could even be viewed as insubordination. But I never really mind it. I don't know why. I just have a thick skin. I don't care. I'm like, I get it. I get that there's something else going there. But that's what I also try to tell people, that I go, sometimes your employer, your colleagues may do something or say something, and it's not about you. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I actually mean it in a good way. When I was very young, one day I showed up to work, and my then boss looked at me and said, what are you doing here? I don't want you in this meeting. And I thought I had done something wrong. And I froze, and I was freaking out, and I was so nervous, and I thought, you're young. I was like, what did I do? What did I do? Months or a year later, when I asked him about it, he goes, no. He's like, I was going to yell at all my executive team. I didn't want you to see that. Like, it had nothing to do with you, you know?
Yeah.
So, exactly,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
so the reason why I did it was not so much to point a finger to others and say, these people betrayed me. That's really not the point. It was for myself to just kind of a closure to say, look, these things happen. They're not very nice, but it happens. I've had a lot of wins. You're going to get some setbacks, but it's up to me to change as well. I can't trust people. I can't be so open, but it really is for young people. You know, I'm a student at heart, and I teach, you know, in many ways. And I really want young entrepreneurs to just kind of like learn these lessons. I repeat to people, I go learn from our success and my failures, because, you know, 20 years in the media business, you know, especially as an entrepreneur, if a dog year is like 10 years per year, you know, an entrepreneur, a year is about 5 to 15 years, depending on, you know, how many challenges you face.
Ashkan Karbafershian is the CEO of Watch Mojo. You can read his words and his insights on the website contextisking.com. Ash, thanks so much.
Thank you.